Okay, we are live. Yes, live. Okay. Just do a quick check on LinkedIn. Okay, we're live on LinkedIn. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. So in case you have anybody who is going to or supposed to join this, please also share with everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning from everyone joining us from around the world. Apologies for starting 26 minutes behind our initial time. I know the last conversation we had lots of internet glitch, and that wasn't very interesting at all. Even though the conversation was very, very interesting and rich, but for the fact that that internet didn't really allow us flow properly, that didn't make sense. So this time around, we had to make sure to ensure how to correct that and what do you call it, make this conversation more interesting and accessible for all of you. So thank you once again for being patient with us. And while you're joining us, do well to share this link with your friends, with your colleagues, with your boss. Share with everybody possible you can ever think of, and let the person know that yes, Now with the Manager live podcast is active, is on the go, and we are here to share quality information and insight with you, with the experts we have here today. So once again, welcome to everybody, and good evening or welcome, good morning to the show. How are you doing, Ryan? Welcome to Now with the Manager podcast today. Hello, can you hear me, Ryan? Hello. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm getting a feedback loop. I'm not sure if you're hearing that on your end. That's why I'm trying to adjust things here. So, but I'm doing well. Thank you. I guess have a little bit of tech challenge here, but I'm doing well. So,
okay. Hopefully that is going to be sorted out as we keep on progressing on this. But once again, today's conversation is all about how purpose-driven workplaces drive success. And if you notice our conversations on an Now with Manager podcast, discussions like this are one of the global conversations you're going to have, right, in different organizations, in top world-class organizations, right, making a difference, making change. Because why? Business has gone beyond just business as usual, how we just come on board, attend meetings, converse with employees, when we go to the office, right? You still have organizations that work from home, that still approach workplaces with what they call it, with the hybrid mode, which is you go to work maybe 2 or 3 times in a week, and then the rest of the days you're working from home, right? So, but however that is going to be comfortable for your organization to drive success and drive growth, the most important thing is that we as professionals, we always need that backbone, that space where we can always fall back on to get insights to quality information. So if you're in Africa, if you're in the world, wherever you are, make sure to be a part of this conversation today. So our guest today will share deep insights with us, and we'll be looking at 5 points and even beyond that into also talking about his book and some other insights from this podcast, right? So some of those 5 points we have, we'll be talking about how to recruit for a shared future, how to manage and fail authentication, stop using people to do work, instead use work to develop people. That's a very, very important point. And leveraging on this stuff. But before we go in depth into the topic of today, we would like our guest to share much about his journey and how he has been carrying his international career. Hello, Ryan. If you can hear me, please.
yeah, I'm unfortunately I'm getting a really bad feedback loop, and I apologize, but I'm hearing the audio in about a 5-second delay here, and so I'm actually hearing it's hard to understand what you're saying to me currently. But I'll try and press through this and hear you. But I'm actually hearing two conversations from you, one in a 5-second delay at the same time. Forgive me if I'm not catching everything. So I think,
no problem.
Did you ask in terms of kind of what led me to this point? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, your professional career, what you've been doing so far. Walk us through your journey, please.
Yeah, so over the past 20-some years, I've worked across 4 different industries, the bulk of which was in healthcare. But where the journey has brought me to today really started about 4 or 5 years ago. So, well, truthfully, it started probably about 15 years ago with a perfect storm of life that really led me into looking at and reevaluating my own life in every aspect, including work, family, and across every domain, and how can I live more intentionally. So that was the process, really, of the better part of a decade around how do I really define personal purpose in a way that's meaningful to me and aligns with the values and impact that I want to have in the world. Fast forward to about 4 years ago, I wrote a book called Redesign Life, Finding Purpose and Balance Amidst Chaos and Uncertainty, which is sort of a field guide in terms of not answering those questions for people, but providing sort of a facilitated walkthrough about how to think through and assess those things for yourself. That led into doing a case study with a call center where I got really interested in how to transform an organization from a rules-oriented, relatively toxic work environment to one where people are truly thriving. And so that then in turn led into guest lecturing at a couple different business colleges regarding and pioneering what I call purpose management, a form of leadership that really taps into who people are and who they want to become, and more of the intrinsic motivators, so leading people from the inside out instead of from the outside in. And then from that, I really understanding both of those dynamics at a pretty deep level, got really inquisitive about how do we understand the dynamics that happen between the individual and the organization to really create more value. And so that led into a leadership coaching program where we reevaluate and really increase the value exchange between employers and employees at every stage of the employee life cycle. And that led into creating some frameworks about how to actually understand these things that can be in tension between an individual and an organization, but how to bring greater alignment and greater value creation for both the organization and the individual. And so that has led into what we're talking about today, which is really what I call a shared purpose economic framework, which is all centered around value and how we create more value for both the organization and the individual. So that's kind of I'd say 15 years in a matter of a couple minutes. So
it sounds easy. It sounds easy when we get to listen, but I can imagine the journey so far. How if you had to look back, do you think you would like to do it again?
What's that? Could you repeat that?
Like, if you had to look back, do you think you'd like to go over the 15 years again?
I apologize.
Okay, if you can hear me, if you had to look back at all you've done for the past 15 years, your journey through coaching, everyone you've connected with, the books, the business, and everything, would you do it again?
So it's would I choose to go back and do it again? No, but I
don't know why the feedback loop is. I can hear you clearly though.
So there's a difference between what I would choose to do and if I'm grateful that I went through it, right? So unfortunately, a lot of the learning came through some pretty painful scenarios that I don't think I wouldn't wish on my worst enemies kind of thing, right? So that would I choose that? No, I wouldn't choose that for myself or other people, but it's one of the things that there's an expression, bringing beauty out of ashes, right? And so this is part of what I am now able to deliver to people and organizations. Really, unpleasant scenarios, but it's also had it's really great parts as well. Interacting and meeting people and seeing the aha moments and the lights come on in terms of engaging with things that are meaningful to them, and then seeing a whole organization and quantify the transformation that has happened and be able to leverage that into greater impact. I'm very grateful to be able to have gone through that. Even though I'm grateful, I don't know that I would have chosen it, right? So, but it chose me in that sense. So.
Well, say the journey chose us. We didn't choose ourselves. Like I'll tell myself, I had to do it again. Maybe I won't come into the podcast space. I'll probably just have to do other things and face it. But the journey has been here, and it's been a very interesting one. I will continue to lead and move non-stop to wherever it leads us to. But thank you very much, Ryan, for sharing that in-depth insights. And apologies for the feedback you're getting from your own system. I don't know why that is so, but I'm hearing you very audibly. And wherever that happens, when you listen, when you hear me, please just keep up with the conversation, so that we can keep others who will be listening to this well informed. We have others listening to us from LinkedIn. Hi, George. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. If you have any question regarding to the topic of today, please feel free to send them into the comments box, or if you prefer, you send them to my to my inbox, and I'm going to read it out here to our guests. So talking about the topic of today, purpose-driven workplaces, back to it, right? Which is like the conversation of today. How do you see such a topic in terms of with the current situation of what do you call it, with the current situation of business landscape today?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry. How do I see what in the current landscape? And now it's frozen. So it looks like we've got double challenges here. I'll answer the question that I think you asked, which is what do I see as the challenges in the marketplace right now? So right now we have a very unusual dynamic in the marketplace when it comes to talent, supply and demand in the marketplace at the entry level on up to even mid-career. We have more supply than demand, and we have the inverse of that in the mid-career on up, where we've got more demand from the marketplace inverse of that, more supply of more workers and opportunities. I'll just leave it that way, because you can view this from both sides. You can view it as supply and demand from the employer side, or from the and looks like we lost connection. So this is interesting. My apologies. I'm not sure where Bong went. And so we will, I guess, not sure if I'm still live, but it says I am. So I'll keep sharing for a minute here, and then we'll close this up wrap this up if Ubong doesn't rejoin. So the marketplace is unusual. It's rapidly changing with AI. Value is shifting in terms of where you're at in the marketplace, in terms of the value that's being delivered, and so it's a very unique time. And what's needed is a number of things, but to really understand value, where the value that's being created, how it relates to individuals, and how it relates to the marketplace, as well as how do we navigate a rapidly changing landscape. And so that's some of the challenges I see just from a marketplace standpoint. In terms of challenges from a leadership standpoint, that's an entirely different question. So the challenges from a leadership standpoint really are centered around how we're some people have called current context a crisis of meaning or a meaning crisis. And so there is a whole generation that is starving to be a part of things that are more meaningful to them personally. And this is creating some value uh, differences, broadly speaking, from generation to generation, although you can see the change over time, even within generational populations. Really boil down to the fact that people want more from work than just a paycheck. And so what we're doing is we're innovating the relationship between employers and employees in a way that they can create more value and create what I call more natural engagement. And so engagement is employee engagement is one of those things that some people even today on LinkedIn, I read it's considered the holy grail, but it's one of those things that we really have to understand the underpinnings and the dynamics of what create engagement for each person to really facilitate that in any meaningful way. Otherwise, it can be a vanity metric or even a waste of time and resources to chase directly. So that's a big part of what I call the shared purpose economy, and helping build really what are the underlying frameworks of how, as leaders, we engage people in the work in more meaningful ways to each person that facilitates them showing up in a self-employed mindset and really solves and brings to the marketplace and creates value for both individuals and the organization. And so with that, I think since Ubong has not rejoined, and I'm not really sure if this is still going live, even though it says it does. I know he had some internet stability glitches before we came on, and so with that, Ubong, I appreciate the opportunity to connect with you here. Unfortunately, with the technology glitches, we'll have to probably sort that out and do this another time. But very grateful to connect with you and with your audience, and looking forward to you hopefully connecting again soon. So thank you.
Fixes something.